Sorry for the delay. I think my laptop is really playing with me. Anyway, let us start. And today I will cover labeling claims and advertisements. This is actually a new rule or a regulation which has been set up by FSSAI. The regulations were gazetted, and all FBOs are expected to follow this, and the implementation date is July 1st, 2019. So, what comes under these regulations? So, here the main component of this is there were a large number of claims being made. Most of you would have seen, like zero cholesterol, no added sugar, no added preservatives, etc. So, to streamline this, the regulation was made so that people, the consumers, would not be misled by the words that are found on these packaged foods. And the regulations now tell the food business operator when he can use the word zero, when he can use the word pure, when he or she can use the word high, low, free, etc. So the regulation, so coming to the definition of what is a claim. A claim on a packaged food can be any message or representation which is not mandated by the food laws, but it is used as a marketing gimmick or as an advertisement for the sale of the product. This could be anything. It could be a picture, it could be a graphic, it could be a symbolic representation, it could be a statement which states or implies that the food has a particular beneficial characteristic. So, the types of claims that you can find on packaged food are nutritional and nutrient claims. These could be the nutrient content, it could be a comparative claim, or it could be a nutrient-led claim. Then we have the health claims, which require that the claim should be substantiated by scientific evidence. The third type of claim is the non-addition claim that you have seen, which is no added sugar, no added salt, no added preservatives, etc. And the third is a disease reduction claim, where if you eat the food, it promises to reduce the disease. And this claim, the disease reduction claim, has to be very stringent, and it has to be proven scientifically with human clinical data. So the Food Safety and Standards Advertising and Claims Regulation 2018 was set and aimed at establishing fairness in claims and advertisement of food products. This regulation would now make the food business operators accountable for any claim or advertisement which is made, and this protects the consumer interest. This regulation also involves a third party, where the film personnel and you have the media personnel who use to have or support the advertisements even though they had not eaten the food also. Now they are liable for punishment against this food safety and standards law, and we will see that later. In this regulation, the criteria has been set for nutritional claims, That, as I said, is nutrient content, nutrient comparative, for non-addition claims, for health claims, for claims related to dietary guidelines, claims related or specifically prohibited, and there are procedures for approval of claims and redressal of non-compliances under these regulations. So the claims in any food for any country in a packaged food, they must be truthful, they must be unambiguous, and they should be meaningless. The main criteria for the claims is that it should not mislead the consumer and it should not prevent the consumer from comprehending the information which is put. The claims should not encourage or condone excess consumption of a particular food. Now, for example, the weight loss food. So it says you lose weight. So this should not mean that if you keep on eating only that food, you will lose more weight. Claims should not suggest or imply that whatever benefit they get cannot be obtained from a balanced, varied diet. So the claim should not make the people think that if they eat the particular food, they need not have a balanced diet. When the claim is related or dependent on the method of preparation, it is supposed to be put on the label. Especially if it has to be reconstituted and taken, these instructions must be provided. The claims also must specify how much of the food you must take to get that benefit per day. So if it says it lowers your cholesterol, it must tell you how much of the food per day you must use for your cholesterol to be lowered. A claim that a food has got certain nutritional or health benefits as indicated must always be scientifically substantiated by validated methods. By validated methods, it means using methods, the correct number of the cohort, that is the human subjects, the way the food is given, taking into account the body weight, whether it is ad libitum feeding, whether the feeding is only 2 times a day, and also with proper control groups to show that the benefit is there. So nutrient claims, there are a large number of nutrient claims, and so therefore the nutrients, what we mean by the nutrients, has been defined in this regulation. Although we have studied it in food chemistry, what are saturated fats, what are monounsaturated, polyunsaturated. For this regulation, they have been defined. So fat means it is the total lipids, takes into account saturated, monosaturated, and PUFA. That is the SFA, the MUFA, and the PUFA, and the trans fat. Saturated fat means fatty acids without double bonds. Monounsaturated is those which have a single double bond, one cis double bond. Polyunsaturated are which have more than one double bond, all in the cis-cis configuration. And you have the trans fat, meaning the geometrical isomers of the MUFA or PUFA, which have at least one double bond in the trans configuration. If those of you who have attended the class on lipids, you will know what is the difference in the configuration of the polyunsaturated and the trans fatty acids. Dietary fiber is very well defined here, which means it says carbohydrate polymers with a degree of polymerization, that is DP, of not lower than 3. So sucrose, maltose, lactose are not considered as dietary fiber. It is only the 3 sugar molecules such as stachyose, verbascose, raffinose, and the higher polymers are considered as dietary fiber. Edible carbohydrate polymers are naturally occurring in food as consumed. Carbohydrate polymers are those which have been obtained from food and raw material by physical, enzymatic, or chemical means of processing. It could also mean synthetic carbohydrate polymers. Very important for you to remember is this sugars, because you will see that in the label, on the label, there will be sugar-free or no sugar added. For this regulation, sugars means all monosaccharides, glucose, fructose, mannose, galactose, etc., and the disaccharides, maltose, sucrose, lactose, etc. So these constitute the sugars. So you will see these nutrient claims on the labels, and nutrient claims can be for energy, where it says the low energy food or high energy food. You could have the nutrient for fat, where you have low fat or you have high fat. It could be for the carbohydrate. It could be for vitamins and minerals, such as good source of vitamin C. So here you see fiber, so it has extra fiber. So any of the nutrient claims can be made. So nutrition claims are when any of the nutrients are added to the food, such as calcium. So here this is added calcium. Calcium is added to the orange juice to increase the nutritive value. Here you have minerals which have been added. Here you have 30% less fat. So this means that the nutrient content is reduced. And if you look at this, it says zero fat. These were the earlier labels available and in the market. But now, to make these claims of zero trans fat, you will see as we go along, there is a certain requirement. So nutrient content claim is a nutrition claim that describes the level of nutrient content in the food. So now when any claim such as added calcium, added minerals, etc. are made, it is expected that these values are given in the nutritional fact panel or the nutritional information panel. So in the nutrient claim, you see this oil packet. As I said, when you claim that you have added this, all those nutrient levels must be there in the label. So this oil says vitamins A, D, E enriched and oryzanol enriched. So therefore, the nutritional facts panel should have the values of all these three vitamins as well as oryzanol. So what you see here is you have vitamin A, vitamin D, vitamin E, and you see the units in which they are given, and also you have oryzanol also has been given. So this is a claim that you can make, enriched, and you think. Please see the word enriched. That means these are not in the oil and they have been added. The following do not constitute nutrition claims: mentioning any substance in the list of ingredients, mentioning the nutrients as part of the nutritional labeling, and quantitative or qualitative declaration of certain nutrients or ingredients on the label. So if it is there as a part of the label of the list of ingredients we saw yesterday, then it is not considered as a claim. A claim is generally made on the front panel because the FBO wants the food to be marketed. So FSSAI now has regulated all these claims of nutrition of when they say low, high, rich source, etc. So you see for energy, you can claim a low energy food only if it has not more than 40 kilocals per 100 gram for solids and 20 kilocals for 100 ml. Okay, so here tabletop sweeteners which have equivalent sweetening properties to 6 grams of glucose can bear this claim if they contain no more than 4 kilocals. So you have to calculate the energy, and only if it is below 40 and below 20 for the fluid, you can claim it as a low energy food. You can claim it as free when it is not more than 4 kilocals per 100 ml. Now coming to fat, you see you have low fat or fat free. You can only claim it is low fat if it contains 3% fat for solids and 1.5% fat for liquids. You can claim it as free if it contains no more than 0.5% fat per gram of solids or liquids. So therefore, you cannot just use the word free. The fat content will be measured. You can use low cholesterol when the cholesterol level is not more than 20 milligrams and the saturated fat is not more than 1.5 grams. Or if the cholesterol is 10 milligrams per 100 ml and the saturated fat is 0.5. So that's when you can use low cholesterol. You can use cholesterol free or zero cholesterol when the cholesterol level is less than 1.5, the fat content is less than 1.5 grams of saturated fat per 100 grams of the solid. So yesterday we saw in the oils they were putting zero cholesterol or cholesterol free, but now they cannot, because it also includes the saturated fat or the saturated fatty acids. So for saturated fat, you can say low saturated fat if it is less than 1.5 grams. You can say free from low saturated fat if it is less than 0.1%. For unsaturated also. For trans fat free, this you see in many packaged foods because everybody knows it is deleterious to health. So you can write only trans fat free when it contains no detectable levels of trans fatty acids. That means when it is tested or analyzed in a GCMS, MS, it should be below the detection limits. So MUFA, PUFA, and omega-3 are always put on the labels because these have health benefits. So now you can write high in MUFA when 45% of the total fats is derived from the product and the fat provides more than 20% energy of the product. That means 20% of the total energy, the kilocals or the kilojoules, which is measured. This is the same for MUFA, PUFA, and the omega-3. We know that the omega-3 are very good. These are essential fatty acids and required. But now you can say source of the omega-3 fatty acids only if you have more than 0.3 and above of alpha-linoleic acid and at least 40 milligrams of the sum of the eicosapentaenoic and docosahexaenoic acid, that is the DHA. You can claim high when there is 0.6 of alpha-linoleic acid or at least 80 milligrams of the eicosapentaenoic and the DHA. So earlier these were being flouted because it is known that DHA is good for brain development. So sugar, a culprit which the labeling was being misused. So now you can use low sugar when the product contains no more than 5 grams of sugar, that is 5%, and no more than 2.5% for a liquid. When you say sugar-free, as over here, the product should contain no more than 0.5 grams of sugar. So with no added sugar or without added sugar, the product does not contain any externally added sugars for its sweetening purposes. And if the sugars are naturally present, some foods naturally, and you want to claim sugar-free, this must be on the label containing naturally occurring sugars. If you want to claim low sodium, because this is very important for hypertension, if you want to say low, it should contain no more than 0.12 grams of sodium or 0.3 grams per 100 ml of sodium chloride. Very low, if it is below 0.04. You cannot use this for natural mineral water and other waters. And if sodium free, it should be 0.005 grams of sodium when you do the analysis. For dietary fiber, you can say a source if it contains 3 grams of fiber per 100 gram or 1.5 grams per 100 kilocalories. High or rich if it contains above 6. You have protein, you can say source when it contributes to 12% of the total energy, and rich or high if it contains at least 20%. And I will show you how we have to do that calculation. So vitamins and minerals, you can say it is a source when it provides 15% of the recommended dietary allowance and 7.5% of recommended dietary allowance of the vitamin per 100 ml. You can say it is a high or a rich source of vitamins if it contributes more than 30% of the RDA. For any nutrient, you can say if you see in the oil, so you can say enhanced with protein, fat, carbohydrate, salt. You can say increased or enhanced when the content is increased to at least 30% compared to a similar product, and reduced when it is reduced by 30%. So prebiotic fiber, you can say when it contains at least 6 grams per 100 gram. Probiotic you can use, as we have seen, when it contains minimum of 10 to the power of 8 CFU. And you can say low GI if the GI value is below 55. This is compared with bread, and bread is 100, and GI tells you the rate at which the glucose is absorbed. So many a time the diabetics look for the low GI value foods. So to make the claims what we saw here, where it says at least 12% of the energy value or at least 20% of the energy value. Also in the previous one, if you see, it says the high where it says 20% of the energy value. The regulations also indicate how that is to be calculated. So it's your percent of energy from the nutrient is equivalent to the grams of nutrient per 100 gram, energy value of the nutrient divided by the total energy per 100 gram of the product multiplied by 100. And we have also given an example. Synonyms which may be used for these claims: for free, you can use the synonym zero, no, without, negligible source, and insignificant source. For low, you can use little, few, contains a small amount, or low source. Reduced or less, you say lower and fewer, and for increased or more, you can use the word higher. So these are the restrictions on using the words. Now there are also nutrient-led claims. That means claims which are led because of the nutrient. And some of these are which are common and which are allowed. because it has been proven is calcium is important for normal growth and development of bones in children. So if the product contains or is a rich source of calcium or a high source of calcium, this claim can be added. If there is beta glucans, the claim for beta glucans helping to reduce blood cholesterol can be included, because it is known that the beta glucans of oat, clinically it has been shown that they lower the blood cholesterol. Xylitol in sugar-free gum helps to neutralize the plaque acids, that means in the mouth. And you can also say that the calcium promotes bone health. You can only say calcium promotes bone health. You cannot say the whole food promotes bone health, because the scientific evidence is not done with the whole food, but it has been done with elemental calcium. If it is done with the whole food, then with the approval of FSSAI, that claim can be made. So here are some low nutrition-led claims. You see, lower oats beta glucan helps lower cholesterol. You have this which is enriched with DHA, and they say DHA omega-3 supports brain health. Please understand that it is not this powder, Nutrim, which will lower the cholesterol. It is only the oats, which is an ingredient of Nutrim, which will lower cholesterol. So they cannot say Nutrim lowers cholesterol. Even here, it is known that this contains DHA, and DHA supports brain health. The health claims, the conditions and declarations for health claims in the regulations have 5 requirements. The first requirement is it must contain 2 parts. It consists, one is the information on the physiological role of the nutrient. Example, the beta glucans lower cholesterol, or DHA supports brain health, or calcium supports bone health. The second part is there should be information on the composition of the product relevant to the physiological role of the nutrient. So if you make a claim for DHA, or you make a claim for calcium, or you make a claim for PUFA, or you make a claim for beta glucan, that the amount of that nutrient in the product must be given, and the substance or accepted diet health relationship can be given. So unless the relationship is based on the whole food or foods whereby the research does not link to the specific constituents of the food. So if you have done it with the whole food, then you can claim it for the whole food. But if you want to claim it only for the nutrient level of the nutrient must be indicated. The second condition is that if the claimed benefit is attributed to a constituent in the food for which a RDA value is established, the food in question must be a source or high, as explained in the tables earlier, which are the Schedule 1. The 3 slides I showed you previously is or are the a part of the Schedule 1. So you can claim the benefit for the constituents for which RDA, so especially if you say it is a source or high in the constituent. So if you recollect, I showed you a can of peaches which says high in calcium. So it should meet the requirement. And then if you're saying the health claim is due to the lower level, low in, reduced in, or free of the constituent, these must again be as per the definitions of the Schedule 1 table. The third condition is the statement on the quantity of the nutrient or a substance that is the subject of the claim per 100 gram or 100 ml of the pack must be given. The fourth condition is, where applicable, the target group shall be mentioned. If it is for diabetes, diabetics, if it is for hypertension, if it is for those with osteoporosis or cardiovascular diseases, it must be mentioned, and any advice to the vulnerable groups on consumption or avoidance should also be made available. For example, not suitable for infants. So directions for use of the food to claim the benefit also must be given, and other lifestyle factors where appropriate. So in addition to consuming that, if exercise is required, that must be mentioned on the label. And maximum safe intake of the food or constituent if it's necessary. So these are the 6 conditions and the declarations that have to be made for health claims. So here in Schedule 2, FSSAI has actually given several of the claims which can be made without taking these are the approved claims of FSSAI. For example, the relationship of calcium or calcium and vitamin D and osteoporosis. The conditions for the claim are the food should be a source or high in calcium or in calcium and vitamin D, and a statement that the beneficial effect is obtained with a daily recommended intake. So the claim that can be made is adequate calcium intake throughout life in a balanced diet are essential for bone health and to reduce the risk of osteoporosis. Similarly, if given for sodium and hypertension, so it says it should be low in sodium. If you recollect, low in sodium was 0.12 grams of sodium. So the claim statement can be diets low in sodium may reduce the risk of high blood pressure, because sodium is associated, increased intake of salt is associated with hypertension. So the saturated fats and cholesterol and the risk of coronary heart disease. The conditions for claim are the food should have a low saturated fat and cholesterol as per Schedule 1, and the statement that the beneficial effect is obtained with a diet low in fat, saturated fat, cholesterol, and physical activity must be included. And the claim statement could be, while many factors affect heart disease, diets low in fat, saturated fat, and may reduce the risk of heart disease. So similarly, you have for potassium and risk of high blood pressure. So here you have to have a low in sodium serving or a low in fat serving. This is the PUFA and the lipid profile. So the food should contain at least 1 gram of omega-3 fatty acids. And the statement must say that the beneficial effect is obtained with a daily intake of 2 grams of alpha-linolenic acid. So the same with beta glucans and the psyllium husk for intestinal health. So it says beta glucans from oats, oat bran, barley, oating. It should contain at least 1 gram per serving. The statement should be that its beneficial effect is if you eat 3 grams per day. And for psyllium husk, it should contain at least 1.7 gram per serving. And the statement says that you should eat 6.8 grams to get the beneficial effect. And the statement claim is beta glucans or soluble fiber intake as part of the diet is the maintenance of the normal fight. The reason why the conditions of the claim is given is if this statement is made and the food is analyzed by the food analyst, it should contain 1 gram of the beta glucan. It cannot contain less. So we have a phytosterol, stanol, and the lipid profile, because it is very well known that the plant stanols lower lipid profile, and there are whole foods which contain the stanol, which have been studied, as you will see, and they are used to lower the cholesterol. And again, beta glucan and blood glucose. So for the disease reduction claims, the two conditions that must be complied with are the specific amount of the serving of the nutrient, as we have seen, and this statement of how much must be taken per day for the to see the effect. That is, you have seen it says you need to take 6 grams of beta glucan per day to see the reduction in the blood cholesterol, or you need to eat 6.8 grams of psyllium husk to see the effects of the psyllium husk on blood cholesterol. So in disease reduction claims where we think, other than what is given over here, prior approval of FSSA is required. So again, it is a claim that states, suggests, or implies that a relation exists between the food category, food or its constituent. These claims are based on generally acceptable scientific data, and they have to be supported by data from human clinical studies. So other than the claims which have been listed in Schedule 2, that is these, that is 3, 6, 8 claims, any other claim which you want to make for the food not related to these, you must take prior approval from FSSAI. So here is a product you see for a disease reduction claim which is permitted, and that is Benecol, because an analysis by feeding Benecol has shown that it lowers the cholesterol. So on the label, where I have expanded what is written here, it suggests that regular consumption of 2 grams per day of Benecol compared with margarine alone lowers LDL cholesterol concentrations by at least 0.5 millimoles for individuals aged between 50 and 59, and for individuals between 40 and 45. So this Benecol was one of the first products for which a health claim was permitted in Europe and other countries. And this is also now permitted in India. So approval of the other claims which are not there and are reduction of disease risk claims have to be, you have to seek, the FBO must seek prior approval of the Food Safety and Standards Authority by applying to the authority, by paying a certain fee and submitting all the documents. A high-level committee of experts in nutrition and health, including doctors, will examine the claim and the data submitted, and then the approval will be given. So the procedure is that you apply to FSSAI with the fees, and the application should contain the claim to be made, the name of the ingredient for which or nutrient for which you are making the claim, a validated method of analysis for that particular ingredient, scientific information and all the clinical data, human studies for substantiating the claim. How is the claim clear and meaningful, and how is it going to help consumers? All the data, as I said, on well-defined human intervention studies has to be provided, and any other useful information. All this information will be looked at in detail by an expert committee, and the approval may or may not be given. So the health claims for vitamins and minerals can be given, and you have to give a statement regarding the RDA for the specific vitamin or mineral. So whether it is one-third the RDA or it is greater than the RDA. Wherever there is no RDA for a particular vitamin or mineral, then you need, if it is not established by the Indian Council of Medical Research, you use the RDA which is given by Codex or the WHO guidelines. In all of these health claims also, claims regarding cancer are not permitted, whether it is reduction, prevention, or cure. No claims regarding the cancer are permitted by FSSAI. That is why I have put it in red. So the health claims which are permitted for fortified foods, because you are adding the fortificants, that is, as either a supplement, health supplement, or a nutraceutical, you can use, if you have added vitamin A, you can have vitamin A helps against blindness, vitamin D supports strong bones, B12 is important for maintaining normal functioning of the nervous system, folate and folic acid is important for fetal development, iron fights anemia, iodine is required for normal growth, thyroid and brain function, zinc supports a healthy immune system, thiamine is required for normal nerve function, riboflavin is required to release the energy from food, niacin is necessary to release energy, and I'm sure those of you who have attended the class on vitamins will know why riboflavin and niacin and pyridoxine are have this function of releasing energy from food. If you recollect, all of these form riboflavin, niacin, and pyridoxine form coenzymes which are important in the glycolytic pathway, in the TCA cycle, and in the beta oxidation of fatty acids. So therefore, when you add this, you can say that it improves the release of energy of food. So health claims are not permitted for alcoholic beverages. You cannot claim that health could be affected by not consuming the food. You cannot claim or refer to the amount of weight that you will lose by eating the food. Claims that refer to recommendations of individual doctors or health professionals is prohibited, and claims of drug-like efficacy such as prevents bone fragility in postmenopausal women are also not permitted. So there is a restriction on the advertisement also. Food businesses cannot use the words and phrases. You would have found this in many foods such as natural, fresh, original, traditional, authentic, geneti on food labels, unless they meet the specific conditions. Because these restrictions are aimed at the open-ended use of these words and phrases by food business operators on frivolous grounds. So when you use the word natural, the ingredient must be natural. Nothing must be added to it. For us, peanut, nothing can be added to this peanut butter. So natural can be used when it is a single food. If you have just carried out smoking, roasting or blanching, freezing, concentration, pasteurization without adding anything, carried out the packaging without chemicals or the permitted food additives that are obtained from natural sources. Example, if you have beta carotene, you have natural food colors, so you are allowed to use natural food colors. The words real, genuine, when used in place of natural, They also must must not have any other unnatural. But whenever the claims such as natural goodness, naturally better, or nature's way, such type of things cannot be used. So natural can be used when it is an ingredient or a product which is a single ingredient and nothing has been done to it. Fresh, again, it says it can be used on products which have not been processed in any manner except they are washed, peeled, chilled, trimmed, or cut. The term fresh or freshly thing shall have no other thing. A food containing additives and or subjected to packaging, storing, or any other supply chain process that shall not be termed as freshly stored or freshly packed because they have already added the words. If you use premium, finest, best, authentic, genuine, and real, you have to clarify, the food business operator has to clarify in what way this quality of the food is justified to use the word premium, finest, etc. Example, you see you have premium basmati. So now the food business operator must explain why the word premium is being used, and he has to prove why the word premium is used. Same as the word pure, it is almost equivalent to natural. It is a single ingredient food to which nothing has been added and it is free from all avoidable contaminants and contaminants, including pesticide residues, veterinary drug residues, heavy metals, naturally occurring toxic materials such as aflatoxin, etc. So anything when you say pure, because you would have seen something as pure cow's ghee. So the pure cow's ghee should not have any of the contaminants or agents which are there in this regulation, which I told you when we were talking about the food product standards. Compound foods shall not generally be described as pure, but implications as pure. But such foods may be described as made with pure ingredients. Again, these pure ingredients must meet this specification or this criteria. Pure shall not be included in any brand or fancy names, nor in coined or meaningless phrases. But what has happened is that many people have already used this as trade names. So we will see later what they must do. Traditional can only be used and if it is demonstrated that the recipe or the fundamental formulation or processing method for the product that has existed for a significant period running over generations. Original shall only be used to describe a food that is made to a formulation, the origin of which can be traced and that has remained essentially unchanged. You know, it's like country of origin. Okay, so original, the word, because most of the food business operators, and if those of you who read the labels when you go to the grocery store, you will know that these words are being flouted by the food business operators. So whenever these words, natural, fresh, pure, originally, earlier were used, and some of them are trade names. For example, if you look at this turkey, it says natural choice. So natural choice is the trade name, and it may have been, the trademark would have been given. If you look at Dabur's juice, for years we have been hearing and drinking real. So it is real fruit juice also. These are permitted to be continued, but at the base of the container or the Tetra Pak, or anything in not less than 3 millimeter size, they have to write this is only a brand name or a trademark and does not represent its true nature. So, because these trademarks and brand names have been registered several years earlier, so FSSAI has included this disclaimer in thing. So then you have the non-addition claims. This is again very common that you see no added sugar, no added salt, no added preservatives. So for this, the regulations are you can claim no added sugar if there is no sugar of any type which has been added to the food. It includes not only sucrose, fructose, glucose, but also you should not have added honey, molasses, corn syrup, etc. Neither should any of the ingredients be a jam, jelly, sweetened chocolate, or sweetened fruit as an ingredient. Also, it cannot contain any ingredients containing fruit juices, containing sugar such as concentrated fruit juice or dried fruit paste. Also, it should not contain or it should not be subjected to a process where the ingredients have been produced by hydrolysis, like high fructose corn syrup or hydrolyzed starch. Enzymes have been used, and if that is added, you cannot make the claim of no added sugar. So when this claim of no added sugar is used, sometimes there are naturally occurring sugars present in the food. And in such cases, they have to write contains naturally occurring sugars. For example, this, because of this no added sugar and no sugar or carbohydrates, if you look at this biscuit that is given, if you look at the nutritional value of this biscuit per 100 gram, you have 69 grams carbohydrate and 3 grams of natural sugar. In this, you have 4 grams of natural sugar. So when it contains natural sugar and there is no endogenously added sugar, you can put contains naturally occurring sugars. So for no added salt, again, because this is there for hypertensive people, the food should not contain any added salt, that is sodium chloride, and neither should it contain any ingredients to which salt has been added, such as a pickle or a papad or a sauce or a salted fish or soya sauce or fish sauce. So none of these can form the ingredient of the packaged food which has the label no added salt. Similarly, for no added preservative or no preservatives, it should not have been added to the food. It should not contain an ingredient to which a preservative has been added. For example, if oil is added and the oil, the antioxidant BHA has been added, you cannot claim no preservative. Is one in which it is allowed to be added in particular products as specified in food safety. And a claim can be made if it has not been substituted by another additive giving the food equivalent characteristics. So no preservatives is allowed only when among the list of preservatives that are there and the ingredients do not contain the preservatives, including the oil. Now so that concludes the advertisement claims, and we'll just go to additional labeling requirements which have been given for health supplements. You know what a health supplement or a nutraceutical is, in that the common name of the product has to be given. The declaration of the quantity of each nutrient or substance with the physiological benefit has to be given. The quantity of the nutrient expressed as the recommended dietary allowance as per ICMR is to be given. A statement that the health supplement is not to be used as a substitute for a varied diet has to be given. These advisory warnings not to exceed the stated RDA, not for medicinal use, and in cases where there may be a danger if consumed excessive, especially if you have too much of vitamins, you can get hypervitaminosis. In addition, there also should be, if there are any adverse drug reactions, they have to be put on the label, and the warning store out of reach for all health supplements is required. The same thing holds good for nutraceutical. So the term nutraceutical has to be given. The common name of the product has to be given. The quantity of each nutraceutical ingredient in the package has to be given. The quantity of the nutrient expressed as percent RDA. Again, if RDA is not there, you can use the Codex or the WHO guidelines. Not to exceed the stated RDA. Recommended usage, not for medicinal use, an advisory warning, cases where danger may exist on excessive consumption, and again, store out of reach of children. FSSAI has fortified foods, and the fortified foods which can use the logo, this fortified food logo, and they can write fortified with, because they've got a fortification regulation. However, when any package is fortified with iron, it should carry this statement, not recommended for people with thalassemia and people on low iron diet. And you're allowed to make a nutrition claim, as we have shown earlier, for vitamins and minerals. In the fortification, you will see the foods which can be fortified are shown. That is milk. You can fortify atta, maida, salt with different fortifications. The level of fortification is given, and also the salts and the source of the fortificants are provided. So proprietary foods have additional 3-tier labeling. They have to give the generic name proprietary foods. They have to give the nature, for example, breakfast cereal and this. So Harvest Crunch. So they must give the composition in the list of ingredients where they are, for which it has become proprietary. So here honey is added, so 14%, raisins 9%, almonds 2%. And antioxidant is allowed, because in breakfast cereal, antioxidants are allowed. So restrictions on the advertisement: oral or written or visible representation, which falsely represents that foods are of a particular standard, quality, quantity, or grade composition when they are not, making a false or a misleading representation, and it gives to the public any guarantee of efficacy that is not based on an adequate or scientific justification thereof. So here is a misleading nutrition claim or a comparative claim. On this packet of biscuits, it's very misleading. It says the protein of 1 glass of cow's milk is equal to the protein of 100 grams of biscuit. The statement is very misleading, because the quantity of the protein in 1 glass of cow's milk will be equal to the quantity of the protein in 100 grams of biscuit. However, the PDCAAS, or the quality of the protein required for a child's growth, that is the protein digestibility corrected amino acid score, is 1. And that of biscuits is 0.47, because it is lacking in lysine. So how can protein of 1 glass of milk be equal to the protein of 100 grams of biscuit? If it says the quantity of protein in 1 glass of cow's milk is equal to the quantity of protein in 100 biscuits, then that would be a correct statement. but giving such a statement is a misleading nutritional claim. So here you have another misleading health claim which says sugar release control. The scientific evidence is not there. They have to have taken FSSAI permission or approval. Clinical data has to be provided. And then it says low glycemic index. And you have seen that in Schedule 1, when you make a claim on the glycemic index, the low glycemic index, the glycemic index should be less than 55 and it should be present on the label. In this case, it was not present on the label. As you see here, it says low GI. You have the approximate values, the energy, the protein, the carbohydrate, and the fat, but the GI value is not given. And as per the regulation, when you make any claim, you should give the GI value. So here is an example of where a claim has been made, but all the scientific evidence has been provided. However, this same packaged oil will be contravening the regulation because you have this claim with a pictorial representation of a happier heart, and you are not allowed to, as per the regulation, this using such type of pictorial claims is not permitted. So now coming to the advertisement which were there in the on TV and thing. So now FSSAI regulation says any person, including a third party, it could be Amitabh Bachchan or Madhuri Dixit, who were advertising for the 2-minute noodles, who advertise or is a party to the publication of any misleading advertisement, not complying with these regulations, would be penalized with a fine extending up to rupees 10 lakhs as per section 53 of the Food Safety and Standards Act. So now you can see nowadays you do not find any of the film stars coming into the advertisement. Advertisements such as that of Horlicks or Boost saying that your child grows 2 centimeters longer also are again misleading because there is no evidence, scientific evidence to show that it is there. So if the food package does not meet any of the regulations I talked about yesterday and today, it will be considered as misbranded if it is sold under false and misleading claims. If the label on the package has a misleading statement or design or device regarding the ingredient, if it is sold as a product of any place or country which is false, if it contains additives and chemicals without declaration, if it is sold as a food for special dietary use without following the regulatory concern on its vitamins, minerals, and dietary properties, if it is incorrectly stated as a product, which it is not, and advertisements should not undermine the importance of a healthy lifestyle or portray the product as a complete replacement of a normal meal. Further, food businesses are also prohibited to advertise or make a claim undermining the products of other manufacturers so as to promote their own food products. And of course, any person, as we have said, is liable up to 10 lakhs. So with this, the webinar on labeling claims and advertisement is complete. And so tomorrow, the webinar will be on the laboratory and sampling, which is one of the last chapters of the Food Safety and Standards Act of India 2006 and that of the rules and regulations.